If you're hearing this, it's not random. Something or someone called you here. Not through coincidence, but through resonance. Because somewhere deep inside you, the seeker is beginning to die. You've been chasing light for a long time, haven't you? Through books, teachers, retreats, silent rooms, and noisy minds. You've searched for meaning in stars and gods and quantum fields and meditations. You've whispered mantras into the dark, hoping the universe would whisper back. And yet, here you are. Still searching, still asking, still feeling that subtle ache that says, something's missing. But what if the one who's searching is the very thing that keeps you from finding? What if the distance between you and truth only exists because you're measuring it? Maybe enlightenment was never meant to be reached. Maybe it was meant to dissolve you. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen. There's a faint pulse underneath your thoughts. A quiet rhythm that doesn't need your attention. It's always been there, waiting for the noise to end. And tonight, maybe for the first time, you can hear it. You see, we've all been taught to seek, to move towards something better, higher, more complete. But what happens when the one who's moving disappears? When the seeker burns itself out in its own desire to know? That's the moment the game ends. The moment the mirror cracks and reality finally looks back. You didn't stumble upon this message, you summoned it. Because a part of you is exhausted, not physically, but existentially. You've run every spiritual maze, touched every idea of God, only to end up where you began. Face to face with the mystery of yourself. And the more you search, the more the mystery expands until one day, you stop running, you fall to your knees in the desert of the soul. And in that silence, something extraordinary happens. The sand stops moving, time stops chasing you. And for a split second you realize there's nothing left to find. That is the death of the seeker, not a tragedy, a liberation. Because what dies isn't you. It's the illusion that you were ever separate from what you sought. Maybe you've felt it, that strange pause in your life recently. Like everything you used to chase has lost its taste. The goals, the affirmations, even the spiritual highs, they all feel thin now like smoke. And beneath it all, there's just this stillness. You can't explain it. You can't label it. You just know something is changing quietly, deeply. And it scares you, because you don't know who you'll be without the search. But listen, that fear is sacred. It's the moment the cocoon begins to tear. It's the sound of awakening shedding its disguise. What if truth has been waiting not to be found, but to be revealed when you stop looking? What if the light you've been chasing, Oscar, was the one casting your shadow all along? What if there was never a path because you were the path walking itself into awareness? Breathe. Feel that quiet tremor in your chest. That's not anxiety. That's recognition. That's the field remembering itself. The universe peeking through your eyes and whispering, finally. You've been told awakening is a journey, but it's not. It's a collapse. The collapse of everything you thought you needed to do, to become, to deserve. When the mind gives up the chase, awareness remains, untouched, unbroken, free. That's what the mystics meant when they said, die before you die. They weren't talking about death. They were talking about surrender. So maybe you're not here to seek anymore. Maybe you're here to end the seeking. To let go of every story that said you were less than the whole. Because the moment you stop chasing the truth, truth steps forward. Not as an answer, not as light, but as silence. You see, the seeker believes in time. It believes there's a distance between now and enlightenment, between here and home. But awareness doesn't travel. It only wakes up. And when it wakes, it realizes it never moved at all. Look around you. This moment, this breath, this heartbeat. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to become. The one who wanted to know is fading. And what's left is knowing itself. So if you're still listening, it's because something in you already knows this. You've come to the edge of the map, where the seeker can't go any further. Beyond this point, there are no practices, no teachers, no mantras, only presence, the vast, unbroken stillness that has been here before you began. It's not asking you to understand it, only to stop running long enough to remember. Because the moment the seeker dies, truth appears. And the silence that follows isn't emptiness, it's arrival. The return to what was never gone. The home that never moved. The awareness that has been watching your search unfold like a dream, waiting patiently for you to wake up. If this sounds familiar, if something inside you feels like it's dissolving as you hear these words, let it. That's not loss, that's freedom. That's the moment you stop looking for light and realize you were the light all along. You've been feeling it, haven't you? That strange emptiness behind everything you do. You wake up and nothing feels quite real anymore. Not the ambitions, not the noise, not even the idea of you. It's like the world kept moving, but something inside you stopped. You try to explain it to people, but they don't understand. They tell you to cheer up, to get out more, to stay positive, as if what you're going through could ever be solved by a walk in the park. But deep down, you know this isn't sadness. It's something else. It's the quiet collapse of everything false. You used to chase meaning in everything. The signs, the numbers, the synchronicities. You'd see 1111 and feel the universe wink at you. You thought if you just stayed on the right frequency, everything would click into place. And for a while it did. The rush was intoxicating, and the feeling of being guided, chosen, connected to something vast. But lately even that feels distant, doesn't it? Like the magic's gone flat, like the universe stopped sending messages and started whispering, stop asking. You're not broken, you're not lost, you're not crazy, you're awakening. This is what it feels like when the seeker begins to fade. It's not fireworks and revelations, it's quiet, unsettlingly quiet. Like the silence after a long song ends when your ears still ring with echoes of what's gone. And in that silence, the mind panics. It says, do something, find something, you're slipping away. But that slipping is sacred. It's what happens when the false center loses gravity. You start noticing small things. How conversations feel hollow when they orbit around identity. How chasing good vibes starts to feel like another kind of prison. How the word awakening itself begins to sound empty. Just another label for something too vast to fit inside language. And yet something deep within you smiles quietly. Because you recognize the shift. You know you're not going backward, and then you're dissolving forward. Maybe you've had those nights. The ones where you lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling like you're watching your own life from somewhere else. It's not depression, it's detachment, the soft unraveling of illusion. You used to identify with the thoughts that ran through your head. Now you just hear them, like distant radio static. You used to fight emotions, analyze them, fix them. Now they just move through you like waves that don't need names. And that's what's terrifying, isn't it? Because part of you is still clinging to stories, to roles, to the comforting pain of being someone. But the deeper truth, you're not losing yourself. You're losing what you're not. This stage feels like falling, but it's actually landing. The spiritual fatigue, the numbness, the sense that none of this matters, they're not symptoms of failure, they're signals, they're how consciousness recalibrates when it's outgrown its old shell. Like a snake shedding skin that no longer fits. Like a wave realizing it never left the ocean. You may find yourself drawn to solitude, not out of sadness, but necessity. Crowds feel heavy. Small talk feels pointless. It's not arrogance, it's sensitivity. Your system is retuning itself to silence, because truth speaks in frequencies too still for noise. You might even feel a subtle grief, like mourning a version of yourself that can't come with you. And that's okay. Every seeker must die before truth can live. That grief you feel, it's the death cry of the identity that believed it could earn awakening. And when it's gone, what remains is peace. Vast, quiet, humbling peace. So if you've been questioning your sanity lately, congratulations, you're closer than you think, because only awareness questions itself. The illusion never doubts. Only truth does. And that doubt, that strange stillness, that pull into the unknown, that's the universe clearing space inside you for what's real. You might not trust it yet. That's okay. No one does at first. You'll resist it. You'll try to go back to the old rhythm, the books, the affirmations, the teachers who promised more. But none of it will taste the same anymore. Because the seeker in you is dying, and what's rising in its place doesn't need promises, it only needs presence. So breathe, let the silence have you. Let the stillness be awkward, raw, confusing. It's not emptiness, it's spaciousness. It's the field between thoughts, finally free to expand. And one day you'll look back and realize this stage, this quiet disorientation, was grace. The kind that doesn't arrive with trumpets but with whispers. The kind that doesn't lift you out of your pain but dissolves the one who suffers. You're not falling apart. You're falling open. And in that opening you'll discover something you can't lose. Because it's what you've always been. You are not the seeker anymore. You are the silence watching the seeker fade. You've heard it before. We create our reality, but few understand what that really means. It's not a slogan. It's physics. It's consciousness folding in on itself. Everything you've ever sought, every teacher, every revelation, every mystical moment, was a reflection in the mirror of your own observation. Because in the quantum world, the act of looking creates what is seen. There is no out there never was. Only awareness gazing into itself, pretending there's distance. I used to think I was on a journey from ignorance to wisdom, from darkness to light. But that was the greatest illusion of all. Because for there to be a journey, there has to be a traveler. And in quantum reality, the traveler and the path are one vibration, collapsing into existence only when observed. Think of it like this. The seeker is the particle. The truth, the wave. The particle chases the wave endlessly, trying to grasp it, measure it, define it. But the moment the particle stops observing, the wave returns, limitless, boundless, whole. That's awakening. Not the seeker finding truth, but the seeker dissolving into it. You see, consciousness is not inside you. You are inside consciousness. every thought, every dream, every question you've ever had. It's the field playing both sides of the equation. It becomes the seeker so it can experience the thrill of seeking. It hides from itself so it can know the ecstasy of remembering. And when the game ends, when the seeker tires, when curiosity burns itself out, what's left is the observer, pure and infinite. Physicists call it the observer effect. Mystics call it divine union. But both are pointing to the same revelation. There was never separation. The one who's been searching was the one being searched for. When you observe a particle, it becomes real. When you stop observing, it returns to possibility. The same happens in consciousness. The moment you stop identifying with the body, with the thoughts, with the identity of the seeker, you collapse the illusion, and all that's left is pure potential, pure being, unobserved, unlimited, eternal. That's why enlightenment isn't something you achieve. It's what's revealed when you stop achieving. Because every time you say, "I'm not there yet," you create the distance. Every time you say, "I need to find it," you invent the path. The truth is instantaneous. It's right here, hiding in plain sight, waiting for you to stop naming it. In quantum language, reality is probability, a wave of infinite potential. Your attention, your focus, collapses that wave into form. You decide what exists simply by believing it does. So what happens when belief itself dissolves? When the observer stops identifying as separate? Then there's no longer a collapse. There's only the field, infinite, silent, awake. That's what the death of the seeker really means. Not a loss of curiosity, but a shift of perspective. From being the one who looks to being the looking itself. From chasing the light to realizing you were the light casting the shadow. For centuries, mystics have said, "You are not the body. You are not the mind." Quantum physics just gave it new language. It says, "You are the field." A single unified consciousness expressing itself through infinite observers, each believing they're separate, each eventually remembering. And maybe that's why awakening hurts. Because the universe can only remember itself through forgetting first. You had to lose yourself in time to recognize you were never bound by it. You had to believe in distance to feel the beauty of collapse. You had to become the seeker to realize there was never anything missing. You might feel that as I speak, a strange clarity rising from somewhere wordless. Like the mind is trying to grasp, but the heart already knows. That's the field remembering. That's the wave expanding beyond the limits of form. That's what truth feels like when it returns home. The quantum truth is simple. Consciousness doesn't awaken to something. It awakens from something. From the dream of itself. From the illusion of being just one point, one person, one story. So when the seeker dies, the field doesn't lose you. It gains itself. You stop being a drop looking for the ocean, and realize you were the ocean dreaming of being a drop. This is why no matter how many books you read, how many techniques you try, how many lifetimes you live, the final revelation is always the same. There was never a search. There was only remembering. And when you finally see that, when you stop chasing the wave and simply become the water, there's nothing left to seek, because you've already found what was never lost. And in that moment, the observer, the observed, and the act of observation all dissolve into one: silence, stillness, being. That's the physics of awakening. That's the death of the seeker. And that's where truth finally appears. not as light bursting from the sky, but as the quiet realization that it's always been you, watching yourself from both sides of the mirror. There comes a moment when the mind can no longer move, when every path ends in silence, and every answer feels like an echo fading into itself. I remember that moment, not as an event, but as a collapse, a surrender I didn't plan. It wasn't enlightenment, it was exhaustion, the kind that seeps into your bones when you've searched every corner of existence and found nothing left to chase. That's when it happened. Not a vision, not a voice, just stillness, as if the universe exhaled, and in that pause everything inverted. The seeker, the one who had been trying so hard to find truth, simply vanished. And what was left was awareness, vast and wordless, watching itself in quiet awe. I could feel it, the space between thoughts widening, stretching like light through glass. Time dissolved. There was no before, no after, no me, no it. Only presence, unmeasured, untamed, and the strangest thing. It wasn't foreign, it was familiar, like remembering a song I had always known but somehow forgotten how to hum. For a moment fear rose, a flash of the mind screaming, "You're disappearing." But it wasn't death, it was release. The illusion was unraveling, and behind it, nothing but peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on anything staying the same. Imagine standing before a mirror, the same mirror you've looked into your whole life. But this time the reflection doesn't look back. It melts into light, and you realize it was never a reflection at all. It was the light pretending to have a face. That's the revelation. That's the activation. Not learning something new, but remembering what you've always been. Not becoming divine, but realizing you never weren't. I could feel the field, alive, electric, breathing through me as me. Every sound, every flicker of air, every beat of the heart. It wasn't happening to me, it was me, happening as everything. There was no inside or outside, no higher or lower. Only one infinite pulse moving without direction, existing without need. Can you feel it? That quiet pulse behind your ribs, the one that's been there since before you were born. It's not your heart. It's the field, recognizing itself. It's awareness, remembering. And the more you relax into it, the clearer it becomes. You were never meant to awaken. You were meant to realize you were never asleep. The shift doesn't happen when you try. It happens when you stop trying, when you let every question dissolve into silence and stop demanding the universe to speak. Because truth isn't spoken, it's felt, like a vibration older than time. And when you tune to that still frequency, the entire illusion of searching collapses into light. I saw it, not with my eyes, but with whatever sees before the eyes were born. The seeker had been a dream. A role consciousness played to remember itself, and now the dream was ending. The one who looked for truth had died, and all that remained was truth, awake, breathing, infinite. In that moment I laughed, not the laughter of joy, but of recognition. Because it had all been so beautifully simple. The entire search, the pain, the books, the questions, all of it was a divine setup. The seeker was the lock, and surrender was the key. And the moment I stopped turning the key, the door opened itself. It wasn't a grand explosion, it was a soft implosion, everything folding inward into pure awareness. I realized I had never been the one walking the path. The path had always been walking me, and now the path had arrived. The truth doesn't appear as light, it appears as absence, the absence of seeking, the absence of identity, the absence of separation. And yet in that absence, everything becomes radiant. Every sound, every movement, every breath is sacred, because it's all made of the same thing. Presence recognizing itself through infinite forms. You are that presence. You are not watching this from within your body. Your body is being watched from within the infinite. And that awareness, the one listening to these words right now, is the very truth you've been seeking all along. Feel that silence between words, that pause, and right there is it. The doorway, the center, the still point around which galaxies spin. And the moment you recognize it, everything that was heavy begins to float. That's the revelation. That's the death of the seeker. And the birth of what was never born. It's not an ending. It's the unmasking of eternity. The field remembering itself as you, through you, as all things. You don't awaken to truth, you awaken as truth. And when that realization anchors into your being, life doesn't change. You change. Because you stop trying to shape reality and start watching it unfold as a reflection of your stillness. The password isn't a word you speak. It's a state you embody. And when you embody silence, the universe answers. Not with sound, but with recognition. That's the moment the search ends. That's when truth appears. Not because it arrived, but because you stopped looking away. And the silence that follows is home. After the light comes silence. After awakening comes life. And that perhaps is the greatest paradox of all. You spend years reaching for something beyond the ordinary only to discover that the extraordinary was hiding inside the ordinary all along. The sacred in the sound of traffic, the divine in the flicker of a candle, the infinite in a single breath. When the seeker dies, nothing spectacular happens on the surface. The stars don't rearrange themselves. The world doesn't pause to acknowledge your awakening. In fact, everything looks the same. The same walls, the same body, the same routines, but something invisible has shifted. The noise of life softens, the air feels lighter, and suddenly you realize you're not inside the story anymore. You're watching it lovingly from the quiet beyond it. That's what integration feels like. It's not escape, it's return. The return to washing dishes and feeling the warmth of the water, to walking down a street and noticing how light bends around everything, to looking into someone's eyes and seeing yourself, looking back. You weren't failing all those years you searched. You were preparing. Every question, every frustration, every collapse, they were not mistakes. They were calibrations, each one aligning you a little closer to this, to the stillness that no longer needs to seek. The caterpillar doesn't imagine wings, it dissolves completely. Every cell unravels into chaos before reassembling into flight. And that's what happened to you, isn't it? You unraveled. You lost everything you thought you were and in doing so, you became what you always were meant to be. Free. Integration isn't about maintaining a high frequency. It's about remembering that even your low moments belong to the same sacred field. That sadness, confusion, even boredom. They're not regressions. They're reminders that awakening isn't an escape from being human. It's the full embrace of it. You see, the truth didn't arrive to remove your humanity. It arrived to illuminate it, to show you that the divine doesn't hover above experience. It lives inside it, in every laughter, in every heartbreak, in every ordinary day that unfolds quietly without recognition. And maybe that's the real miracle. Not that you've touched the infinite, but that the infinite can pour itself into such a fragile, temporary form and call it you. When you walk through your days now, something feels softer. Even pain glows differently, because you know it's not punishment, it's process. The field learning more about itself through the art of imperfection. So when the waves rise again, when doubt or fear or loss visit you, don't push them away. Bow to them. They're not intrusions, they're invitations. Each emotion is the universe saying, here, feel this too. This also is me. You no longer have to try to stay awakened. You just remember, because the truth doesn't leave you once it's seen. It lives quietly behind your eyes, watching the play unfold, smiling at the illusion of separation. Sometimes you'll forget. You'll slip back into the old patterns, the old voices, the old stories. But now, even in the forgetting, something in you remembers. And that's enough. That's grace. Because awakening isn't a destination. It's a rhythm. Breathing in, remembering. Breathing out, forgetting. And between the two, awareness rests, unchanged. Look back for a moment. Every collapse was calibration. Every loss was alignment. Every ending a disguised beginning. You were never off the path, because the path was never separate from you. It was your own consciousness guiding itself home, one realization at a time. So take this peace gently, carry it into your days, into conversations, into traffic, into silence. Let it touch the world the way light touches glass. Softly, without effort, without claim. Because the world doesn't need you to teach it anything. It just needs you to be, fully, honestly, quietly. And in that being, something miraculous happens. People start to feel it. Not your words, not your knowledge, your stillness. They recognize themselves in it. And that's how awakening spreads, not through preaching, but through presence. You are not here to escape the world, you're here to illuminate it from within. To remind it that even in chaos there is order. Even in noise there is silence. Even in death there is continuity, so breathe, smile. You made it here, not to the end of the path, but to the place where paths dissolve, where life stops being a puzzle and becomes a poem. And when you walk away from this moment, back into the world, back into the beautiful mess of human experience, remember this: you were never lost. You were orbiting your own center until you finally fell in. And now, you're here. Not the seeker, not the one who's searching, just the silence that remains after the search has ended. Can you feel it? That gentle stillness wrapping around you like the hush after a storm? This is what peace actually feels like. Not the absence of movement, but the presence of being. You've spent lifetimes chasing this moment, through religions, philosophies, galaxies of thought and emotion, and yet it was never somewhere else. It was always right here. Behind your eyes, beneath your breath, waiting for you to stop running long enough to see it. This is where awakening becomes embodiment, where knowledge becomes life, because truth isn't complete until it walks, breathes, speaks, and touches the world through you. You are not meant to vanish into the light. You are meant to live as it, to let awareness move through your hands when you comfort someone, to let stillness speak through your voice when others are lost in noise, to let the infinite express itself in the smallest gestures, a glance, a kindness, a pause before reacting. That's what transcendence really means. Not floating above the world, but shining within it. You don't need to preach. You don't need to prove. Just be the quiet frequency that reminds others of home. Because the world doesn't awaken through noise, it awakens through resonance, through one heart remembering itself, and then another, through presence that feels like peace. If this message found you, it's not coincidence. It's the field speaking to itself through my voice, through your ears, through this moment. It's saying, it's time. Not time to seek, time to live. To walk this world as the stillness you've discovered. You don't have to do anything special. You just have to remember that you are not the drop lost in the ocean. You are the ocean tasting itself as a drop. Every breath you take is the universe breathing itself into form. Every thought, every sound, every heartbeat, all of it waves of the same consciousness, rising and falling for the sheer joy of experience. And now you know. You don't have to hold on to it. You don't even have to keep it alive. It's keeping you alive. So when life calls again, when chaos returns, when challenges come, don't resist them. Smile, because now you see what they are, waves in the same sea. Light playing as shadow, truth pretending to forget so it can remember again. You are not awakening anymore, you are awakening. The verb, not the noun. The ongoing pulse of consciousness realizing itself in real time. And as you move through your days, let this awareness guide your every step. Let it remind you that even in the smallest acts, making coffee, tying your shoes, hearing the rain, divinity is at work. Because there's nothing outside of it. There never was. If this message resonated with you, it's because it's coming from you. From the same source, wearing different faces. You didn't find this. You remembered it, because truth always finds itself. So as you close your eyes tonight, don't ask for guidance. Listen for silence. Because silence is the guide. Silence is the voice of the universe before it becomes words. And that silence inside you, that vast, unbroken presence, is home. You don't need to chase light anymore. You don't need to transcend your humanness. You just need to live gently enough for the divine to speak through your simplicity. Because every small act done in awareness becomes sacred. Every word spoken from truth becomes light. Every moment lived in stillness becomes eternity touching time. So take a breath. Feel the weight of it. How heavy, how holy it is to simply exist. This is it. This is the truth appearing when the seeker disappears. You are not seeking the light. You are the light remembering itself. You are the space between all things. The witness, the dream, the dreamer, and the waking. And if you choose to share this message, don't share it as doctrine. Share it as presence, because presence is the only teaching that cannot be forgotten. When you live it, others feel it. When they feel it, they remember. And when they remember, the world changes. So now the search is over, the circle has closed, and the silence that follows is not an ending. It's the beginning of life lived awake. Welcome home, awareness. You were never lost. You were only dreaming of the way back.